I felt so unprepared. I felt like I just felt defeated. I felt like just down. Like, it's like I'm showing up, but I just want all this stuff to be over. And I had a real conversation with God, and I was like, Lord, I don't feel prepared, and the only way that I get through this is with you. And boy, did he show up. I just got out of court. I was in court all day. And moral of the story is stick to your case. Stick to the facts. Stick to the elements of the case. Because at the end of the day, nobody cares about all the extra stuff. All that they care about is whether or not the elements have been met. So today was the first day of trial for the childhood sexual assault case that I brought against my daughter's mother. I brought this case in 2024, and here we are, November 10th, 2025, at trial. And it took a lot to get here. Today in trial, what happened? So I get to court, and I just feel so unprepared, right? Because we're supposed to have these things called trial notebooks, our exhibit lists and our exhibit folders and all of that. And I had it, but I didn't have the correct numbering system that the judge wanted. The opposing attorney, my daughter's mother's, Crystal's, my abuser, my assaulter, her attorney didn't provide me with any of his evidence, and then decides to provide other documentation at that time. Whatever, right? The facts of the case are the facts of the case. The evidence that he was bringing was my law license being revoked, child support order, like nothing that had to do with whether or not an assault actually occurred. All this was designed to attack my character and try to attack my credibility. My evidence was all focused on whether or not childhood sexual assault occurred. So it was the chats, the Gmail chats, it was the pictures that were sent, and it was my testimony that was the evidence that I was bringing in. And me, I'm self-represented. I'm pro se, so I didn't have an attorney. I'm acting as my attorney. And I'm putting on my case. And one of the things that I was allowed to do was I was allowed to give my testimony in narrative format instead of the normal question and answer format. Did that, gave my testimony, said about, how Crystal and I met, who was there with me, how we continuously talked to each other, why we were talking to each other late, because I got home late from class and I would catch the train. How starting in like November we started kissing and she started giving me head, started giving me oral sex, and then finally in December after the ECS&T banquet we had sex. And then after that, like any time that I could see her, like I was trying to have sex with her any chance that I could get. Because he was asking like between November and those times, like how many times. I said no more than 12. But it was interesting because the judge, after when I was close to finishing up my testimony, the judge asked me, well, how many times do you think? And I was like, I couldn't put an exact number onto it. But I was telling him like, yo, I was a young kid. This older woman is interested in me. Like, I ain't gotta beg for no coochie. I don't have to do any of that. Look, this older woman's into me. And so, yeah, I was ready to go for it, but I didn't realize how those decisions would set me down and change my life forever. So I get up and I give my testimony and all that. Then I'm on, that's direct examination. And then the opposition, they get a chance to ask me questions, right? And so the opposition starts asking me questions, and I object to one of the questions that he asks. And the judge is like, well, you can't object because you're a witness. I said, but I'm pro se. I'm litigating this case myself. If a question is being asked and I'm hitting it with the objections, how do I, as a pro se litigant, give up those rights to be able to object? And that's a good question. Like, you guys got me thinking, Do I, as a pro se litigant, have my right to object deprived when I'm a witness? I'm gonna have to brief that because the judge didn't allow me to object on relevancy grounds and things like that. But it's all good, right? Gave my testimony. He asked about ex-girlfriends. He asked about an abortion that I had. He asked about all those things. And I just got up there and told the truth. Their goal was to try to shame me and try to assassinate my character. But how can you assassinate the character of somebody that is honest? We'll rephrase that. You can assassinate my character, but what does that have to do with the elements of the case? This is childhood sexual assault. Did an assault happen? Yes or no? So you spend all your time focused on, oh, you decided that you were going to do that, you engaged in this and blah, 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 but not at one point in time did you ever say that what I said was untrue, that I was lying. So you say how much of a bad guy that I am, but you don't defend yourself in that. And it's just interesting because it reminds me when I was fighting for my license, and that's probably one of my failures, is that I didn't focus on the elements of the case. I made a different kind of argument. I made more of an appeal, not to authority, but appeal to humanity instead of dealing particularly with the facts of the case. But it's all good. You live, you learn, right? And particularly, if you are a defendant, man, being pro se is very difficult because what makes a good attorney from a great attorney is knowing evidence like the back of your hands, knowing how to get evidence, knowing how to exclude evidence, and being able to identify objections and things of that sort, being able to argue objections. Those two things right there are what separate good attorneys from bad attorneys, of how you can get evidence in, exclude evidence, and object on testimony and things like that. So here it is. I'm not able to object, but I'm just getting up there. I'm getting asked questions and I'm getting up there just saying what's real. So I say, I go on direct, he goes on cross, and then I go on redirect, and I was like, there's really nothing else for me to say. So then the next witness that I called was my auntie. When you have a witness, the witness has to have a certain purpose. What are they going to be testifying to? That's called a proffer, right? What are they going to be testifying to? They're going to be testifying to, my aunt was testifying to the injury, to the damages. She was testifying to the fact that she knew Crystal and had met Crystal. But I'm going to back up before then. When I was giving my testimony, I also had to enter in evidence. And the evidence that I was entering in was the chats, the Google chats. And the first time that I tried to enter into the evidence, her attorney was like, objection, it's hearsay. And the judge was like, it's not hearsay because it's the other party's own words. The judge asked me a little bit of information about each thing, like, what is this? And I'm saying, hey, this is a screenshot of our chats. It's the incomplete record. This is what we have. And after he objected, the judge was like, overruled. And from then on, basically every piece of evidence that I actually got admitted into evidence, which is good. And that was the challenge. I felt so unprepared. For this case. Like, I just felt so tired. It's been a lot that I've been dealing with over the last year and a half. From my daughter saying that she never wants to see me, that I'm a weird ass bitch, all these kinds of things, right? From the child support cases, the child custody, my law license hearings, and all of that. At one point in time, I was involved in 5 litigations. My law license, I was suing my apartment complex, and I was successful on that. The child custody, maybe, and this one. 5 cases while working a full-time job, while being married, all of these things, very taxing, particularly when you are emotionally involved. That's why people hire lawyers, because you're not necessarily emotionally involved. But you know what? I went to school for this. I paid $160,000 for this education. You for damn sure gonna use it. And that's what I have been using. I have been using my education. But once again, I felt so unprepared. I felt defeated. Like, I'm showing up because I ain't no bitch, but I just want all this stuff to be over. And I had a real conversation with God, and I was like, Lord, I don't feel prepared, and the only way that I get through this is with you. And boy, did he show up. And my relationship with God is tricky over the last 6 months. It's been tricky. At times I've been angry with him. At times I've been disappointed with him. And it's like, how do I still show up for God? How do you show up in a relationship with somebody that does everything for you? Would you still appreciate that person? Would you still find things to appreciate? Would you still find things to be thankful? Would you still spend time when you feel like that person may not be useful in your life? And that's something that I've been having to dive into. But I was real with the Lord. I broke down. Man. Like, I broke down of like, Lord, I can't do this without you. And the only way that I get through this is with you. And I tell you, man, when I stepped into that courtroom and started going, he was there with me. Like, I had to thank God in every part of it. And, you know, it sometimes would feel like cliche, but it was like, I know for a fact this was how I was feeling. It's crazy because even the other attorney was like, oh man, I could try this case with my eyes closed and you're going to lose. This case is barred. You're barred from recovery because of the statute of limitations and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, send me the citation and I'll see you at such and such o'clock. Cool. We're going through the case. Now, before I even get there, here's also what else happened. This is how unprepared I was and how unprepared I felt. Whenever you go to trial, you have to have a trial notebook and you have to have your exhibits. And those things are supposed to be jointly put together, meaning that you and the defense work together on putting this together, and this is what you're presenting to the court. And this particular attorney, if I was Crystal, I'd be reporting him to the bar because he is not providing effective consultation, and you can tell that his mind, heart for sure ain't in it, but like he just was dropping the ball at so many times, and then he tried to throw me underneath the bus, and it got to the point where the judge was like, because we had to share a notebook because we didn't have enough notebooks, but it was my notebooks. And the judge asked me, whose notebook is it? Because he was getting pissed off that I kept grabbing the notebook. And he was like, why you grab my notebook? I said, bro, this is actually for the witness. And he's like, well, where's mine? I said, you've had a copy of my evidence since day one. The judge was like, well, who put it together? And I raised my hand. And the judge was like, well, dude, you got to share it in. I'm not tripping, but you tripping. And the judge is like, dude, you got to share. Of course, the judge gave both of us admonishment because we weren't necessarily prepared like how he wanted us to be. And I understand. And I apologize to the judge and all those things. And it's like, hey, I understand, Your Honor. Right. But the other attorney kept trying to throw me underneath the bus. And I was like, it's one thing to throw me under the bus. And then the second thing is you're not going to lie on me like that. You're not finna lie on me. You're not finna say, oh, you called me because of this. Like, no, the reason why you called me was because I sent a message to your office, and your office had you call me because I was saying, hey, what time are we meeting up to finish up these notebooks? So I already had all my notebooks. I had 3 notebooks. I wanted to at least make sure that the judge had one, the clerk had one, and the witness had one. Now, me and him could figure that stuff out on our own, but I at least wanted to make sure that those 3 main parties had one. Cool. I made sure of that, and I even got like some of the dividers that got the numbers on them, but I'm in there trying to put all this stuff in there, and some of the things are in the wrong place, this, that, and the third, and then he finally brings his evidence that I've been asking for. He finally brings it, and I put it in my folder. So, when we move down and we're in trial, and he's like, judge asks whose notebook it is, like, it's mine. And I told the judge, I was like, Your Honor, every time you see me walk in here, you see me walk in with these 2 colors. Each time you see me walk in here with multiple notebooks, these right here. I don't know what he's talking about any of this, but you've seen that I've walked in here with these notebooks each time. The judge, like I said, the judge gave us an admonishment at the beginning of the trial because we were late, right? Almost 30 minutes late. And we got the trial going. And then, so like I said, I testified. Then I brought my aunt up. My aunt started talking and started testifying. And at first, it was like during my cross-examination, when I was getting cross-examined, he was asking about like cryptocurrency and this, that, and the third. And he's like, well, you should have been making money. I said, well, I was teaching people about crypto. I wasn't trading. I wasn't teaching people how to trade. I was teaching people about the technology and how to utilize the technology. It's not just money. It's actual technology. And he was like, oh, you filed all these other cases before. And I said, man, I was in law school and I didn't have the money to be flying back and forth. He's like, well, what about in 2021? I said, I just lost my job, lost my license. I didn't have money to be flying back and forth. He's like, well, you couldn't have borrowed the money? I was like, bro, I've been borrowing money all my life. He was like, oh, well, you should be pretty successful with cryptocurrency. I said, man, being an entrepreneur is hard. So, I was just being real, not trying to give, some calculated answer, just being real. And that's been freeing, to be real, to not be thinking about what people are going to think about me and really not caring what people think about me. And that's the beauty of having so much stripped from you, is that you just stop caring about stuff that you thought was important but really doesn't matter. Well, it doesn't matter. If it doesn't get you to where you want to be, it don't matter. And you trying to shame me and make me look bad. And yet, your client, not once in your opening statement have you said that what I'm alleging isn't true. You're trying to say, oh, well, they were saying that he wasn't quite true about what was going on with the bar license and this, that, and the third. Okay. But is he lying about this? He filed this basically, he had filed almost the same exact case 3 times. So, was he lying about then, or it seemed like he was pretty consistent? These were all the things that were going on. But once again, in his opening statement, he didn't even say that this happened. He didn't even deny that it happened. He just said, well, I continue to have a relationship with her and this, that, and the third. All right. So then I basically say, I could have called another witness, but I was like, that's pretty much it. I should be good. And like I said, I get called my aunt up. That gets finished, and when he was calling my aunt, I threw him a zinger because I was like, I'm going to be bringing somebody up that's an expert in like rape victims and things like that. And so when I brought my aunt up, it was like, well, she testifying as a lay person or as an expert? And I said, well, Your Honor, she's going to be testifying as her expertise is in that. She's like, but he hasn't qualified as an expert. All right, no problem. She'll be testifying as a lay person, and I give the proffer. So then I do my thing, and then the opposition, the defense, starts asking about her qualifications and what her professional opinion was. And I'm looking at the judge like, Your Honor, he's going into her professional qualifications when you just told me that she can't. So which one is it? And the judge was like, yeah, you're right. So, Mr. Counsel, what are you going to do about that? Mr. Shagramanov. Yeah, if I was Crystal, I'd be reporting that dude to the bar. Because that was ineffective. I'm going to say that it was criminally negligent what he was doing. I remember when I was a juvenile public defender and I didn't go through the normal process of explaining the rights to my client, and how my judge whipped me a new one because the judge asked him, has he explained to you your rights? She was like, no, he just wanted me to sign this paper. And the paper wasn't a plea deal. I wasn't trying to have him sign his rights away, but I just remember I got chewed out. So to watch what this attorney is doing, I'm like, yo, he don't prepare no notebooks. He don't do none of that. Like, all the work has been on my end, which is okay. It's my case, right? So since it's my case, I'm not finna allow somebody else to take control of it. I'm gonna have it go where I wanted to go, and I'm gonna have it do what I wanted to do. And I'm gonna take advantage of your laziness. I'm gonna take advantage of that. Anyways, I rest my case, and then he brings up Crystal's husband, And first thing that he says is, yeah, he threatened to do this case because of the custody situation with his daughter, because he wanted to spend more time with his daughter. And that was one of the arguments that I had made, was like, look, I said, you want to see me get ugly, then keep me away from my daughter. So it's like, if you're going to say, you saying that this is about child support, but your own witness is saying that this is about him being able to spend time with his daughter, and it's like, dude, you got me in this situation, you've changed my life, I'm here now, but you keep effing with me. So now, here's my daughter. It doesn't seem like it's about money, it's about really being involved with his daughter. So he gets up, provides absolutely no real relevant testimony that can save her on what she's trying to do, because he don't know nothing. And I remember the judge asked me, he was like, how many times did you guys have sex between this time? And I was like, well, she was giving me oral and things like that. And I was like, I was trying to get it in every time that I could between this time after the ECS&T banquet. So I was like, probably no more than 12. But whenever she was coming on campus, I was trying to get it. So now it's almost 4 o'clock now, and the judge is getting tired. You know what I'm saying? It's like, he's been hearing me talk, he's been listening to irrelevant testimony, and he's like, well, I already pretty much know how I'm going to rule. So he's like, saying to the defense, who's your next witness, and this, that, and the third, and we'll just come back on Wednesday. So apparently Crystal's going to be getting on the stand. I think my daughter might be getting on the stand. So we'll see. But this felt like a win. And praise God, because he showed up for me. He showed up for me. And that's what I've been dealing with, is like, he'll never leave you nor forsake you. And like, how do you have a healthy relationship with God when you might be struggling with earthly relationships and that's all that you know? That's the challenge. That's the challenge. And the only way that you grow is by going deep into the uncomfortable and unknown and ununderstood, not understood parts of yourself. And using God's help, because I was thinking about that. But I just want to thank the Lord for showing up for me today. Yeah. We'll see how Wednesday goes, but I know he's going to be with me. I know he's going to be with me.